Hey everybody, what's going on? Back again for another recommendation for this upcoming Halloween. A little over 2 weeks away. And this one's not necessarily a obscure film, but it's not really necessarily synonymous with Halloween as far as a lot of the more classic horror movies and psychological thrillers and whatnot are considered. But yeah, it's my favorite, probably. I mean, if like I said, it's not necessarily the best horror film, but it's always been near and dear to me. Probably because I saw it way back when I was a kid, and I just, really gravitated towards the story and the characters and everything, and really enjoyed it. And I still watch it every year, sometimes multiple times during October if I feel like it. And that movie is Fright Night. And it's a pretty basic premise. Got a little suburban town, that's in a little cul-de-sac, little neighborhood, and you've got kind of an imaginative high schooler named Charlie Brewster who lives, looks seemingly with a single mom. I don't know, but they never mention where his dad's at, but apparently a single mother. He's got a girlfriend who's actually played by Amanda Bierce, who's played Marcy Darcy on Married with Children. So this was before that. So yeah, that's kind of funny. Plays a girlfriend, and then he's got a best buddy, but he's into all the nerdy stuff, kind of the monster movies and that sort of thing. So he's kind of an oddball, And one day, the house that had been right next door to his, which had been up for sale for a while, is finally bought by a kind of mysterious stranger, who Charlie, kind of happens to spy upon one night, kind of haphazardly, and thinks that he may not be all that what he appears. Let's just say. So he gets a little bit paranoid about that, and his inquisitiveness, gets him, as he tries to investigate more and more, gets him deeper and deeper in danger. And ultimately, he has to try to call upon the aid of a kind of past his prime horror movie actor named Peter Vincent, who's played by the great Roddy McDowall. It's another actor that I always really liked. And of course, since it's just, his word against the neighbors, nobody believes him. They all think he's crazy because, the supernatural doesn't exist, so on and so forth. So, as the show goes on, he gets, or the movie goes on, he gets pulled further and further into this mess that he's got himself in, and which he didn't necessarily had to, but he's kind of felt a moral obligation to put a stop to what's going on. And so some really good special effects for the time, makeup effects, and for the gore and whatnot. And there's some pretty comedic situations that kind of break up the tension of the film, because you got to remember that this Charlie Brewster's his hero when it comes to these all these kind of B movies is Peter Vincent, and of course he sees Peter Vincent on screen and thinks he's this, larger than life, can defeat the powers of evil, no matter what. But of course, in real life, he's just a mere mortal, and mere mortals tend to not, especially those that probably act within the genre in a B movie sense, maybe get so desensitized to the notion of the supernatural because they see it played out, kind of rather comedically or ironically on the screen, that they're going to be the last person to ever want to believe that what they're, the subject matter of their movies is actually something that exists outside of the movie theater screen. So yeah, so obviously, if you grew up during the kind of the peak of the '80s action movies, and you had someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger, that you saw on screen, and then assumed that he was going to be that kind of person in real life, as far as being able to get a machine gun and take out an army by himself and whatnot. It's not going to happen. But when you're kind of a naive teenager, that's you're a little bit I don't know, protected from the big bad world in a way. You kind of might form some of those naive ideas, especially if you're just, a really, huge fan of that movie actor. So yeah, because Peter Vincent's kind of like he'd be like a Peter Cushing type, I guess, if you want to compare as far as like the roles he's played and whatnot. So, but now he's kind of on his own. He's on like a public access show, as a host for B movies, B horror films, and sci-fi and stuff, and is having a hard time making ends meet and so on. But yeah, I mean, it's got a lot of the classic tropes for the type of movie that it is, and the type of ways in which the monster can be vanquished, if you will. And yeah, so it's overall I've always really liked it. It's made a bit of nostalgia and whatnot. But yeah, I think it still holds up as kind of a cult classic. They made a sequel, Fright Night 2, not too overly imaginative, that brings back two of the characters from the first one, and it's okay. It's definitely not the first film. So and it's kind of hard to find. You're basically going to have to, if you can't find it on like streaming, you're basically going to have to pirate it, because I don't think you can it's really kind of a rare film as far as being able to, as far as last I checked, I mean, I don't even know if they put it out on DVD. So it may just be VHS, and it's not essential. Like I said, Fright Night itself, you could probably get on DVD or Blu-ray for, they probably have it at Walmart or something for, the $5 bin, so not an expensive investment to watch the movie. But yeah, like I said, it's definitely one of my favorites. I watch it every year, for years and years and years. Definitely one of those ones in my childhood that made a strong impression on me. And yeah, it's cleverly done. It's probably really was inexpensive to film, because it's all kind of focused on one really small central location, and which is what I really like, because it kind of I guess you would say goes in. It's not a Lovecraftian movie by any chance, but the idea of just kind of everything really just zoomed down to the level of the individual and their awareness of things that are going on, when the rest of the world is completely, oblivious to it, and is kind of just going on, and is kind of just the 99% of the world is just kind of faded into the background, and it isn't even relevant. It's just, a handful of individual characters interacting, but the stakes are pretty high. So I've always liked that kind of feel. It makes you, because you feel, if you were like someone, especially if you're someone that like I said, uncovered a conspiracy of some kind. It doesn't have to be like a New World Order conspiracy or whatever, but you are the only, you happen upon it, and you're the only one. You've seen it. You have your experience verifies that it's 100% true. But you can't get anybody to believe you, and then the whoever it is that's conspiring is discovered that yeah, that's a pretty terrifying position to be put in. So I just kind of like that, where films just, it's kind of like with Seven. You for most of the film, you really had it just shrunk down to, even though they were in a big city, you just really had it all kind of drawn down to some of the focal characters, and you really didn't expand out, unless otherwise towards the end. But still, it was just really focused down on those who were impacted, instead of just having all these, millions of other people aware of what's going on, in like a film like Godzilla, where you've got this terrifying force, but everybody knows, and everybody's talking about it. So when it's really zoomed in to the microcosm, I really find, and that's kind of like Halloween too, if you want to make that comparison. I always found that, more terrifying when it's just a few very small individuals that are at risk, and the rest of the world just basically can't help them. They have to, either solve the problem on their own, maybe with the help of one or two people. And if they fail, then the bad stuff's gonna keep on going on, because the rest of the world is still, completely oblivious to it. So, and it could be a problem that could spread and become, catastrophic. So, like The Thing. That's another, I'm just draw comparisons to other movies that I recommend. The Thing is that way too. You have a handful of people in a remote location. The rest of the world has no clue. And at the end you wind it down little by little to just a few people, and then we know that the what can happen if the worst case scenario plays out is too horrible to even imagine. So yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's not as serious as those films, or as deep thematically as those films, but it's entertaining. So if you've never watched Fright Night before, I definitely recommend it. I wouldn't be surprised if Netflix, Hulu, or one of those sites streams it, right now. And like I said, if you want to pick up a copy, you could get a DVD, like I said, at Target or Walmart or wherever, probably for like a couple bucks, and probably in the bargain bin. Yeah. So anyway, that's Fright Night. Great movie. Check it out if you'd like to. I'll be back with another recommendation soon. Take it easy.